Hello, classic rock fans. I am reporting just a couple of days after seeing Foreigner at the Washington County Fair in West Bend, Wisconsin. This is the third time I've seen Foreigner in concert, although it's been over 10 years since the last time. The first time I saw Foreigner was at Wisconsin State Fair in 2009, and then I saw them in 2012 at the Waukesha County Fair. And I will say both shows were really good, particularly their show at the Waukesha County Fair. I remember that one being a lot of fun. And more recently, I've seen Foreigner's original lead singer Lou Gramm at the Arcada Theater in St. Charles, Illinois, just last year, and that was also an excellent show. Now, I saw this most recent show at the Washington County Fair in West Bend, and this is the 8th time I've attended the Washington County Fair. It is one of Wisconsin's best county fairs, and it has grown quite a bit in the years that I've been going. There was a massive crowd there this weekend, and I think that's due to the popularity of the fair, although having a good headliner like Foreigner doesn't hurt. The first time I went to that fair was back in 2008, which was the first year I was attending concerts regularly, and I saw a double bill of Styx and Boston was on their first tour without their original lead singer Brad Delp. A year later, I saw the Steve Miller Band, and that day was pretty memorable for me because that was the first time, and one of the only times, I ever watched a band do their sound check. So I got to see Steve Miller Band do their sound check earlier in the day because we were at the fair early enough to see that. In 2010, I saw a triple bill of Kenny Loggins, Dennis DeYoung, and Starship featuring Mickey Thomas, and I got to talk about that show with someone who performed at it. I interviewed Stephanie Calvert from Starship a couple of years ago. She doesn't sing with Mickey Thomas anymore, but she did remember playing the Washington County Fair and told a nice little story about it. The year after that, in 2011, I saw a double bill of Loverboy and 38 Special, which was another good time. And then in 2012, I saw REO Speedwagon at the Washington County Fair, and that was the end of my original run of going to the fair. Every year for 5 years, and they were all good shows. And then I took a 5-year break. I didn't come back until 2017, and that was to see Ann Wilson from Heart, because that was shortly after the Wilson sisters split the band up for a little bit, put Heart on hiatus, and did their solo runs for a couple of years. And then most recently, just a couple of years ago in 2022, I saw Bret Michaels at the Washington County Fair. Another good show, great night. The only thing that sucked about that experience was I'm pretty sure I caught COVID there. But, what are you going to do? All this to say is that the Washington County Fair has been one of the best friends to fans of classic rock in Wisconsin. So I'm always appreciative that they consistently book bands that I like, and I'm really glad I've had the opportunities to see these bands in concert, and I always check the schedule, and I was happy to get back there this year to see Foreigner. Okay, so let's talk about that show. First, we're going to go through the set list. They opened with Double Vision and Head Games, which are two reliable rockers. Great way to open the show. From there was Cold as Ice, which was the song that got the first big response from the crowd. People love that song. There was a lot of people getting up and singing along. After that was Waiting for a Girl Like You, one of their more famous ballads. And then they went back to their harder rock songs like Dirty White Boy, Feels Like the First Time, and Urgent. And on Urgent, they made a singer change. Lead singer Kelly Hansen introduced their upcoming new lead singer, Louis Maldonado, and he sang lead on both Urgent and the set closing number, Jukebox Hero. Now, the reason they did this is because Kelly Hansen is retiring, at least from Foreigner, at the end of this tour.
After being the lead vocalist of this band for 20 years, this is my last summer as the lead vocalist of Foreigner, all right?
And the new lead singer is someone who was already in the band, so they have this unique opportunity to slowly introduce their new singer to their audiences and basically give him some practice time in the spotlight before he takes over the job full time. I will talk about Foreigner's lineup in just a little bit. Let's wrap up this set list here. If you saw my review of the Lou Gramm show, you might remember that I said that Urgent was the absolute highlight of both times I've seen Foreigner previously, and was one of the highlights of when I saw Lou. And that is specifically because Urgent features an absolute world-class sax solo. And in the past, when I saw Foreigner, that sax solo damn near stole the show. That was performed by then member Tom Gimbel, and he was awesome. Now, he retired from the band, I think in 2020 or 2021. To be honest, I haven't followed Foreigner that closely since then, so I don't know if this change started when he left or if it's more recently. But instead of finding someone else to play a sax solo, they've removed the sax solo on Urgent altogether and replaced it with a keytar solo. Okay, no disrespect to their keyboard player. Dude is very talented. I don't want this to sound like I'm criticizing him, because I'm not. I'm criticizing the decision to swap out the sax for the keytar. It is not a lateral move. It is an absolute step down. It's a downgrade, and it was very disappointing. Especially because it's the same solo. Like, it's a note-for-note recreation of the sax solo on the keytar. And I just don't get that. If you're going to change instruments, why not do something new with the solo? It strikes me as a good enough sort of mentality, and man, that did not really work for me. I really miss the sax solo, and I just don't understand why that part of the show had to get cut. I'm guessing it's because nobody in the band plays sax, and bringing someone in to play that part would, cost money. But if the sax solo from Urgent is gone because of a cost-cutting measure, I don't know what to tell you except that that is very disappointing. From there, we got some solos, specifically a keyboard solo and a drum solo, both of which went on too long and added nothing to the show. After the solos, the rest of the band came back on stage to do their big finale with Jukebox Hero, and again, Lewis was singing lead on that, and that was the end of the main set. They went off for a few minutes for an encore break and came back to do 3 songs: Long, Long Way From Home, I Want to Know What Love Is, and Hot Blooded. And as is tradition for I Want to Know What Love Is, they brought a kids choir on stage to sing the gospel backing vocals part of the song. And I will say that is one of the best things that Foreigner does. And in this case, someone in my family was in that kids choir, so that was very sentimental for me. And I thought it was just a cool tradition that Foreigner still does. It's not something they have to do, but they choose to do this, and it gives kids a great opportunity to sing on stage with a genuine rock band. Very cool stuff. So I'm going to be critical in this video about Foreigner, but I will say that I think this tradition of bringing a kids choir on stage for this song specifically is a great tradition, and I hope they keep doing this. Especially because it gives the band an opportunity to say to the crowd how strongly they feel about the importance of funding music programs in schools for kids. And I think that's important for people to hear.
Is to remind everybody about the lack of funding for school music programs. That's right.
Funding the arts is important, and I'm glad Foreigner takes this opportunity to remind their audience of that. And then the final song, Hot Blooded, another rocker, great way to send the crowd out happy. So what do you notice about this set list? Let me read it again. Double Vision, Head Games, Cold as Ice, Waiting for a Girl Like You, Dirty White Boy, Feels Like the First Time, Urgent, Jukebox Hero, Long Long Way From Home, I Want to Know What Love Is, and Hot Blooded. What do those songs all have in common? They're all hits. They're all of Foreigner's radio songs. Maybe with the exception of Dirty White Boy. And that's great. Every casual fan of Foreigner will be happy that they didn't skip a single recognizable track. So I don't have any criticisms for these songs being picked to be in the set list. These are the essentials. Playing the essentials is good, but only playing the essentials strikes me as very restrictive And I gotta say, I'm a little surprised by this. In the past, I remember a couple of songs that aren't radio hits that Foreigner played. I remember back in 2009, they played a song called Star Rider. And that was sort of a trippy, spacey song. And it was different, and I enjoyed it. That was one of the better parts of the show, because it was like a new-to-me song, you know? In 2012, I remember they did Blue Morning, Blue Day. And that one's like a fan favorite. Lou Gramm played that same one when I saw him last year. And Lou Gramm's set list had most of, if not all, these songs. Plus, he had some solo songs. Plus, he had some lesser-known songs in the set list. All this is to say is that this is the most conservative, safe set list I have ever seen at a show. I just posted a review of Seeing Night Ranger, and in that video I said that I don't begrudge bands who play it safe, particularly bands like Foreigner, who play county fairs and casinos, and they play shows where a lot of casual fans come, and they know that casual fans just want to hear the hits. That's fine. I don't really begrudge that. But I am surprised that they limit the set list to just the radio songs. Because there's room here for a little bit more. I don't understand the mentality of narrowing it down to just these. They stretch these songs out. So this isn't a case where, listen, we only have a certain amount of time, and we have to get to every one of these songs, and it just so happens that playing all these songs takes up all the time we have. These songs are like padded, like the false endings and the, jams at the end of the songs. Those go on for like a minute on almost every one of these songs. So if you just ended the songs normally, you would have like space for 3 more songs in this set list. So I gotta say, that's just another decision that the band made some time back that I strongly dislike. Because it's not just this tour. I went on Setlist FM and I looked through past tours. That's how they've been doing this whole farewell tour. That's how they did their hits tour in years before. Even before COVID in 2019, this was the set list. You have to go all the way back to 2018 when they were doing their Then and Now tour that featured some original members of Foreigner, where the set list has any variety in it. So this is not just the most conservative set list I've ever seen. It's also one of the most stagnant set lists I've ever seen. And I just don't understand the appeal of this for them. I mean, I would think they would want to have a couple more songs in there that they enjoy playing. But this line of thinking might just be because I'm a fan. And maybe they're not thinking about their diehard fans in the audience, because there's so many more casual fans at these shows than diehard fans. I kind of get that, because I know there's a lot of diehard Foreigner fans that don't like this incarnation of Foreigner at all and are very vocal about it on social media. So let's dig in here a little bit. Why would they make a set list this square? Well, I think to do that, we have to understand where Foreigner is at this current point in their career. So very quickly, I'm going to go through a brief timeline of the last 10-15 years to sort of give context to where we're at today. So going back to 2011, Foreigner was touring with just one original member left, Mick Jones. In 2011, he had heart surgery that took him out of the touring lineup for a couple of years. He was absent for most of the tour in 2011, and he wasn't there at all in 2012. So Mick Jones returns to the lineup in 2013 or 2014, which was a longer than originally expected break after his surgery. And that was because, as a result of this surgery, he was prescribed a medication. And in 2014, he talked about how he reacted very badly to this medication, and he almost had a nervous breakdown. He had some mental health issues, he had some anxiety issues, he wasn't sure if he could play like he used to, and he needed a little bit more time to get reacclimated to playing on stage again. And then as the decade wore on, he started to downshift again, and there would be shows that he wouldn't be there for, or he would only play 3 or 4 songs in the set, and he was seemingly phasing himself out of live touring. Now, around that same time, Lou Gramm, the original lead singer of Foreigner, in 2018 announces that he is going to start downshifting his career and that his retirement would be coming up soon. That would be the first of many retirement announcements that Lou would make, and he's still making those announcements, even this year. So then in 2020, COVID-19 pandemic hits, concerts get shut down for like a year and a half, and then as touring starts up again, Foreigner resumes going right back out on the road every summer like they had in years past, but at the end of 2022, they announced that in 2023, they would be starting their farewell tour. At the time, they did say that it would be a fairly long farewell tour with dates being added on. And at the time, I expected that this meant that the farewell tour would take about 2 years. And as it turns out, I was right. Just not in the way I thought. Now, the reason why Foreigner was going on this farewell tour was made a little more clear in early 2024 when Mick Jones revealed that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which then provided an explanation for why he had not been with the band on this tour so far and why he wouldn't be joining them for the later part of the tour. And then more big news in 2024. It was announced that Foreigner would be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And unfortunately, due to his diagnosis, Mick Jones was not able to perform at that either. And it's also around this time where original lead singer Lou Gramm comes back into the picture. Lou had originally reunited with Foreigner along with a couple of other original members back in that 2018 Then and Now tour, and that seemed to help mend some bridges with Mick Jones. But after that tour, they went on their separate ways again. After Mick's diagnosis, Lou reappears, and it's announced earlier this year, actually, that he would be making some special appearances with Foreigner through the year. And of course, he did perform at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. Now here's where it gets a little weird. Lou Gramm was brought back in to be the lead singer for a number of select shows because they were in South America. And for some unstated reason, their current lead singer, Kelly Hansen, is not able to travel to South America or Canada. And Foreigner's Canadian dates, the lead vocals would be handled by someone who sang in the Foreigner musical. It has something to do with residency issues for Kelly, but I really do not understand what the whole deal with him not being able to do these international shows is all about. He's been very reserved when talking about it. He doesn't really share any details, and you know what? That's fair enough. That's his business. I will just say that means there's some lineup turmoil going on with the band right now. And speaking of Kelly Hansen, earlier this year, Kelly announced that he would be retiring from Foreigner later this year, and that the 2026 tour, the lead vocals would be handled by their newest member, Louis Maldonado, who joined back in 2021. You keeping up with this okay? And then just a couple of weeks after all that, Foreigner finally makes it official. They are not actually on a farewell tour. The farewell tour they announced in 2023 is not a farewell anymore. At least not for the band. It will serve as a farewell tour for Kelly Hansen, who will not be joining them in 2026, and perhaps a farewell to Lou Gramm, as he also said 2025 would be his last year on the road, but he's been saying that since 2018, and I believe there's also been interviews where he says he wants to join Foreigner for shows again in 2026. Who knows what that actually means? The main point being is that Foreigner will continue in 2026 and for the years to come with new lead singer Louis Maldonado, who joined them originally in 2021. He's a multi-instrumentalist, and he's really good, by the way. Again, I've been critical in this video, so I want to focus on some positives. Louis on lead vocals was a highlight. He's a strong vocalist. He has a lot of energy. He was running around on stage. He's got some rock star moves. I don't know that he's quite ready for prime time, but he's close. And having him do these two songs at each show on the tour, I think, is a great way to get him ready for the full-time position of being a frontman starting next year. So I will compliment Foreigner. They are setting him up for success, and I do appreciate that because he's a talented young guy who has earned the spot, and I think he really could be the frontman who leads them into the future for years and maybe even decades to come. So the point of going through all this history is to set the stage of where we are now. And where we are now is just before the end point for a number of key members of the band. We are in the middle of a transition period for the band. Mick Jones has been off the road for several years, and unfortunately, due to his diagnosis, I expect he will be stepping further and further away from the band as time goes on. I don't know what this means for the band's ownership, but I suspect he'll become more and more hands-off as time goes by. Lou Gramm, if he means it this time, may be done playing shows altogether this year or next year. And Kelly Hansen, who has been with the band since 2005, is leaving the band outright, and he's being very definitive about it. So I don't know if he's ever going to be coming back into the picture. I suspect not. So then the question is, well, who's running this band? And the answer is Jeff Pilson. Jeff Pilson is originally from the band Dokken. And I like Dokken. Subscribers to this channel might remember that last year I interviewed effects artist Mick Strawn about working with the band because he worked with them on their music video for Dream Warriors. And what did he say about Dokken? How did he describe those guys?
When I saw Don Dokken and George Lynch, the term douche whistle came to mind. Douche whistles! All freaking douche whistles!
Right. Now, I don't know if that's a fair way to describe Jeff today. He did make some remarks during the show about Kelly Hansen. He paid tribute to Kelly, and I thought he was a real class act in doing so.
I think he's become one of the finest performers rock and roll has to offer these days. And he's an intensely wonderful, deep, deep human being whom I'm fortunate, and we're all fortunate, to call our friend. So, Wisconsin, will you please help me thanking and acknowledging the one and only Mr. Kelly Hansen!
He's been a music industry insider for a long time now. If you look him up on Wikipedia, he has played on a lot of albums and with a lot of bands. And he's also done some production work. In fact, going back to Stephanie Calvert and Starship, who I mentioned earlier, he was the one who produced the Starship album that Stephanie recorded on. And he spent some of his childhood here in Wisconsin, so I have a soft spot for that as well. But the main thing being is that it seems that he's the one running Foreigner's day-to-day operations. He's the band leader, so I suspect that as Mick Jones steps further and further away from Foreigner, it will be Jeff Pilson making those decisions that perhaps Mick made in the past. I found an interview with Jeff in which he talks about being the band leader and how that means that he designs the set list, and it's up to him to pick the songs that they play. So he's the one who's designed the set list that I have a problem with, so I guess this part of the criticism is meant for him. Jeff, I love this band, but this set list is way too conservative, way too square. And I mean that in the context of bands that are similar to Foreigner. Styx, REO Speedwagon, Don Felder, Night Ranger, Boston, when they would tour, all of these bands would stick to their hits, right? Foreigner is very much in that tradition, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the difference between Foreigner and all these other bands is that all these other bands would add in a few other songs that aren't just radio songs. And I just don't understand the appeal for either the band or the audience to limit the set list to only songs that get radio play, leaving the entire rest of the catalog on the sidelines. I don't think it's a big ask to say Blue Morning, Blue Day should be back in that set list. Star Rider, that was a great song to play live. That should be in the set list. Or what about a cover? Don't you guys like playing covers? Aren't there any classic rock cover songs you like jamming on? Why not that? Or why not something from the Can't Slow Down album? Jeff was on that album. And I know that album's quite old at this point, but it's the last collection of original songs from Foreigner, so why not represent some of that in concert? And I'm not saying you need to make the show longer. I'm saying you can end the songs normally without the extended jam at the end of every other one, and you can fit like 2 more songs into the set list. I think that would go a long way in improving the show for fans who know the band beyond the radio. So that's my plea, and I have now gone on way longer than I should have, so I'm going to end it here. I will just say that despite my complaints, I still enjoyed myself at the show. I think the band's doing a great job of setting their new lead singer up for success in the future. I think they have a great tradition of bringing a kids choir on stage to sing on I Want to Know What Love Is, and I hope they continue that tradition into the future. I'm not going to give Foreigner a hard time about not having original members in the band. At this point, that has been complained about enough on the internet. I don't have anything to add to it, and I also don't care all that much at this point. So I will just say, if Foreigner comes to your town and you haven't seen them before, I would actually recommend going to see them, because what has been unsaid in this video so far is that the list of songs that they play each night are all hits, and they are all great hits. Lou Gramm and Mick Jones were songwriters, and those guys put together some amazing songs that have stood the test of time. It is a true compliment to the catalog that those guys have written enough hit songs that you can fill a full concert with all hits that people are going to recognize. So if you like these songs, they're going to be performed very well. Despite my frustrations about the solo on Urgent, I still think everything was performed very well. The band has been playing together for a long time. They've got it down to a science. So you are all but guaranteed a great presentation of these songs. If you have seen them before, please tell me what you thought about that show in the comments below. Also in the comments, please tell me if I'm wrong about anything I've talked about in this video so far. Let's argue, okay? Should they keep to this set list? Should they keep the guitar solo? I want to hear your opinions. The only thing I would say to save your comments on is the stuff about the no original members. That's tired. We've been over that before. Who cares? Whatever. Let's just talk about how the band is right now and what their future looks like. And then, please check out some of the other concert reviews I've done on this channel. If you're a fan of classic rock, I guarantee I reviewed a show from a band or artist that you're a fan of. And if you are that fan of classic rock, please check out the podcast I do. It's all about classic rock. We've had a lot of fantastic guests on this year, and we are coming up on our 100th episode. That is going to be awesome, so please stay tuned for that. And you can do that by subscribing to this channel and by finding us on social media. So with that, I will just say thanks again for watching this video. Go see Foreigner if you can, and keep rocking.